try and see how best you can manage it. But I wouldn't say it's worked not in my favor. I think it really has. People have been able to say, we can also tell when boss is not amused. I think it's even just by a look, or just like that laugh, like, I'm giving you 5 minutes to just get out of my office, come back and rethink what it is you're asking for, But is it needed? I think definitely. Should you bottle it up? Should you act a certain way because you think that's what is going to get you that job, or going to get you that, because if you're entrepreneurs, going to get you that partnership? It may get you that one, but the longevity, no. Be yourself. For me, and also the most important thing is be yourself, but know yourself, I think is the best thing. I know what sends me 0 to 100. You understand? So I will then mitigate that and know, okay, I'm not going to see that, even at work. When there's people who would just not come into work or just take piss, excuse my French. Yeah. So I just make sure not to interact with that. So I think more importantly, it's knowing who your different superheroes are. Yeah.
Love it. Remember, any of your comments that you want to add in, right? At the end. So, let's talk money. You're living a comfy job, right? And I think one of the reasons why people don't quit their jobs, right, is either you're looking at that insurance, right? You're looking at that paycheck at the end of the month, right? So either you find yourself overexerting, you're balancing a job with 2 other businesses, or you're too scared to even leave this job to start something, right? Money, where do you even get the capital, right? So let's talk about Zahida. When you're finishing Safaricom, the next month is coming. At this point, have you even decided what business you're doing?
So 2018, I remember going to the guy who designed my brand. I knew what company name I wanted. I didn't get the company. I wanted the company name to be the Brand Experience Company, but somebody else had registered it. So the lawyer, and I wasn't paying attention, the lawyer you said, the BE Experience Company is available. I was like, yeah, take it, whatever. 2018, I wasn't serious at that time. Remember, I was like, register something, I'll see. And then I sent it to my friend, Brian Munge, who did an amazing job with my brand, and I said, here's the company name, see you in a month's time. I need a look and feel. I need a brand guideline and everything. And he did, and I loved it, and we did like a whole thing, and then I packed it and I took off. But from 2018, I started planning my finances, and this is really important. I think if I was to write about one of the biggest lessons I have picked up is put on your own oxygen mask first. As a woman, nobody speaks to you about, and I'll tell you guys the things that I heard about leaving. Everybody told me prepare financially, get your ducks in order, and that's really important. You can't just wake up and leave, and then you've got bills to pay and school fees and even yourself. So the first thing I think the biggest lesson I learned was to put on my mask first, which is I needed to take care of myself. And there was the financial side of it. So 2018, I had a super nice mortgage that Safaricom had at a decent percentage, worked about 3 years of saving, what are the things we were giving up so that I could pay that off and not have that burden on me when I walked out of Safaricom. So a lot of financial preparation, I think, is really important. And you'll have to make sacrifices. As a family, we've made sacrifices. The things we could do before, we're not doing as much before. It's just sensible spend of your money. You have to adjust your lifestyle. And so it took me about, realistically, 4 years of saving enough to say that I've got enough if I was to leave for a year of not impacting my family in a negative way. Because it's one thing that I want to leave and do all these crazy things and whatever it is that I'm going through, but it's another thing that is affecting my husband and our 4 kids and the whole ecosystem that I'm also providing for. And I was and still am, thankfully, an equal contributor in our household. So that was really important financially. So I think for me, financial harmony is super important. Just make sure that you've planned yourself well. And for me, a year's work was really important because I had no idea what that looked like when I walked terms of, was I going to get clients? I left doing head of brand at Safaricom to start my own events agency. And you guys in events, it's cutthroat. Everybody's an events man. All of us are events people. So, yeah.
We are all in events.
Everybody's
How many
in
people
events.
here in events?
You all are, you just don't know it.
Yeah. When if a woman wants to start business, I was recently seated in a session where they were talking about how difficult it is for women to access financing. How easy has it been for you to access financing? For your business? If it's been easy, say, hey. Have you tried? Where is the place you'd go for if you needed to start a business? Where would you go for the financing? Bank? You said never. Yeah. Bank. Savings? Sacco. Actually, Sacco is one of the most popular, right? How do you go about getting financing?
So I'm with the lady that I saved because I'm so scared of taking loans because I am traumatized. I have PTSD from my parents having taken a loan and then my dad passing away and then having to survive that loan. So for me, if I could avoid taking, and I know that's not everybody's reality, and I think it's really important to say that everybody needs to do what makes sense to them. And I love that there's SACCOs. I'm also in a SACCO, and I know that's probably the safest place I can go to from a percentage perspective, from a risk perspective. I don't think I'd go to a bank. I don't think banks right now. For me, when I started my business, I said, okay, so I need to open a bank account for the business. And I started doing my homework, and there's like over 22 banks that everybody was like, we're going to do all these things. But I ended up with a bank that I felt understood me as a woman who was starting out her business. The other way, some of the banks pitched to me was like, oh, we also will send you to South Africa if you want, so you can go shopping. Who told you how to go shopping?
These are those bank products.
I can take my shopping. I don't need you to take me shopping. And who said women want to go shopping to South Africa? I said, we don't want that. We want to be at the same table the men are at, the same percentages, the same everything you're giving men. If you want to lower my interest rates because I'm a woman, great. So I went to the bank, was like, we have a great account for you as a woman. This is what it looks like. These are the percentages, and as you grow, these are the things. So simple things like credit card limits. Another bank said they wouldn't give me a credit card until I finished a year with them. I was like, no, this bank. So I feel like there are banks that listen to women and there are banks who think they're listening to women. And it applies to everybody who's lending money, right? It's like when you take your car to a garage, it's automatically assumed that you don't understand what's going on, and then he tells you which, or if you go and buy a car, the guy's like, oh, what color do you like? Who told you I'm here for the color? Yeah. It's the same with some of the lending institutions. So I think for me, what I said very early on was I was very scared of taking loans. So I'd rather just wait it out or borrow from somebody I know will not punish me for taking a loan. So thankfully, I didn't have to go to a family member or a friend, but I have friends and family that I can call and say, look, I need 500K, I've got this event, and I've had to do that in the past 1.5 years. I've had to tell a friend, listen, I need to pay 200K right now for something, and she sends the money. So I think it's what works best for you. I don't think there's a formula per se for everybody. There are people who love banks and they're doing well with their banks. There are people who have been burnt by banks. For me, I think the message is find that formula that works for you. I know it's not easy to get money, to answer your question. I don't think we're where we need to be in terms of support system for women. I think institutions are trying, but then I think when you fall, when you can't make ends meet, then that's when you see the true colors of interest and those guys hounding you. So I don't think we're there yet.
Nana?
I think, I think it's as you say, it goes hand in hand. When you're wanting to start your own company, your own business. For me personally, Let's see. I don't know if anybody would actually even guess. I'll throw it out there. Does anybody know how I started my own capital in 2025, 2000 and sorry, not 20, we weren't there yet. Hey, in the future, no, exactly, sorry, 2005. In around 2005, doesn't have to match about the year, but any ideas of probably what or how I got my first amount of money? Just put it out there. Sold my house? No. At that point in time, I was in university. Someone saying Chama?
Oh, yes, your network.
My network? Help?
Help. Stuck in the university.
What?
Looking for investors.
Investors?
Lottery tickets.
Lottery.
Family.
Family.
Pitching.
Pitching. At that point in time, I was in university, so gosh, I don't know how old I was, but yeah, right? I was a waitress.
Wow.
Right? You have to humble yourself. That's another thing I really want to also say there. I did not know what I was saving for. So how this came about was because I was at uni in the UK. I had my pocket money and all of that type of stuff. And I was like, look, I really do want to get a job. I want to do something in life. And this is not about save, I think we get confused and we start saving because, when you also are told, save for something. You don't have to save for something. Just save, and when something happens, you can spend it towards that. And I think that's very key. So I was young enough, and what I did was, you had these major clubs in the UK, members clubs, right? And these members clubs are bottle service, and one of my friends owned one. So he was like, you're in uni, please ask one of your friends, or just put a word out there with the university students to do waitressing. So it was Friday and Saturdays. At that point in time, I'd stopped drinking alcohol, but I loved to go out. And just to give you an idea, I tried working in Benetton, and it just got too much when my line manager was like, fold, 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 fold. I was like, hey! So I stuck it out for maybe 3-4 months. After I worked in a pub, that was also okay. But when this came up, I actually quit the pub job and did this. Reason being, I connected the dotted lines. And what that was is, in these members bars, it's like I said, it's bottle service. You've got a lot of people coming in, celebrities, whatever, high net worth individuals, and it's literally, it's nothing seedy, it's nothing like that at all. And it's just literally, you're holding a bottle of champagne or a vodka bottle and you are pouring it, but there's somebody else clearing the table, all of that kind of stuff. In that time, on a Friday and Saturday, because I wouldn't work on Sunday because I'd go back to school back to uni and it was in London, I was living in London. 4 tables, each table, I'd be making about £500 tip a night. Right? You understand where I'm going with this? Yes. So I did that for 2 years. I even didn't come home one New Year's because I did the math. And the first New Year's when I came home, I came back and one waitress told me she made £35,000 in one night. I said, this is what I need. I said, I don't know what I'm going to need the money for. So I made it. So my dad was always like, look, learn the value of money. It's also important. Learn the value of money. Because if you don't know the value of money, any person can make money, but a fool can lose money, whatever that saying is, right? So, made a thing with my dad. I was like, okay, if I save enough money, at the end of it, we're able to match it. And he's like, yeah, of course. He's like, never, buy anything here. This one's not going to save any money. By the time I was graduating university, right, I had £120,000. I went to my father and I showed him my statement. And he was like, did you go to uni? he's like, what happened, right? Sure enough, he matched it. Put it into the savings. At that point, I still did not even know what I wanted to do with that money, right? But I was able to. Now it's just, but what I wanted to say is, it's not about how much money you make, it's about forward thinking. You're young enough now, right? Some of you may not even have families, you may not have started on that yet. The importance, women, that I have to just let you know is, Save for, when they say save for a rainy day, fine, but save for your future. And that's exactly what I did there. I humbled myself, because even my friend was like, no, you don't have to work. I said, yeah, I don't care if I don't have to work. I know what I want to do. And from that, I was able to birth my company, Borrow, which is a luxury travel concierge service, right? So from there, it was the starting, it was the seed money, right? I was able then to attend different events I needed to attend globally to be able to market Kenya. I was able to be able to do that. I didn't have to then also ask somebody for money. That's, of course, like you're saying, it's good to have people your support team for that. But had I left it, finished uni, waited later, it would have been a very different story. You understand? So the reason why I'm telling you that is to show you, humble yourself, right? The race is with yourself at the end of the day, right? That person next to you is not, it's going to be there with you for a while or whatever, but at the end of the day, that is your business. You know, and every time, for me it's probably nothing, but for someone like, you know, for Sheila, you know, I personally get a lot of messages in my DM about, say, I need money here, I need support here, and even with yourself, you know. I always ask the person, how much money have you saved? Don't come and ask me for money. How much have you saved? And let's see how we can match it. I personally don't give money out anymore because A, I've been burnt, but also again, people think that they can bring their problems to me, but what have you done? What have you brought, as you say, you want to be the captain of the table? Did you go and buy that uniform? Yeah? Did you go buy that bus ticket to get there? Did you wake up in time and walk to where you needed to go to? So it's the effort that you put in. So definitely, I look around the room and you're young enough, you know, so I was just fortunate enough to be in a situation where I was able to make that kind of money, right? But at the end of the day, even it's not about the amount of money, it's that work ethic and that acumen of getting out and doing that and saving that money for helping you start whatever it is you want to do. And it may be for your job, but it also may be for starting a family. Families are expensive. Yeah, I'm not going to lie to you. Yeah, it doesn't matter who you are. It's going to be expensive, right? And as we're saying, we're in an area right now, or a time right now where here, maybe in this country, you know, she was also mentioning as well, economic factors that are ruling in. Banks, they may be giving us 50,000 loans, you know, to go shopping. That's not what I want. I told you I came in here to start my company. I didn't come in here for a pair of clothes or a new wig. No, I didn't ask for that. So that's it there. But yeah.
I love that she's passionate about this. Yeah.
I think for me, and it also depends on what is your start, what are you getting into? What kind of capital do you need? What do you need it for? I was very fortunate enough that I have walked into an industry where I didn't need to own anything. And I took a very conscious step not to, and I think this is where a lot of women think, and actually business people, think that you need to walk out and open a big office and have 10 staff members and have a tea lady and have these desks and have all these things and have a shop and all that stuff. And when I walked out, I was like, it did occur to me that maybe the clients that I'm looking for are going to want an events agency that has office spaces where they can come and visit you. And actually, I made a deliberate decision not to do that because I couldn't finance it. It would mean taking a big chunk of what I'd saved for the safety and security of my family to go and start an office space that actually I may or may not have needed. So I really paced myself for the first year, and I said, and I went fully operational September 1, 2020, what do you mean? 2022. And I said I wasn't going to open an office. I'd rather invest in people, the resources, so the team members. We worked from anywhere. So I didn't open an office. I didn't go buy a printer. I didn't go buy laptops. We came together as a team, and a lot of the team members I currently have are people who are with me on a consultancy basis, on a contract basis, and we're growing. And the people that are with me because they believe we have a future together. And I think that's another really important thing that I'm learning at the moment is there'll be people on my journey that are there because they will benefit from me for that short term. The people that are on this long-term journey with me understand we're growing together. There'll be months where we don't make anything. There are months where we make really good money, and they understand that. And so right now we're investing on ourselves as people. Did I need an office space? For the past 1.5 years, I haven't needed one. I've worked from wherever. We've worked from, gosh, hotels, we've gone and sat in art cafes in Yaya, we've gone to clients. Clients have been super nice. They're like, oh, you don't have an office, don't worry, come work from our space today. We've run great stuff. We run Soulfest out of Social House and Art Cafe and Baraza Media Lounge, and at times from my house. 22 people would meet when we need to meet, but everybody was getting their work done. So I think my message for you is pace yourself as well when you start your business. Don't fall into this trap of you'll need everything at one go and you're gonna need all this big fancy stuff when you want to take you seriously. Actually, the people who are on this journey with you are just interested that you're gonna deliver for them. We're in this wonderful world of social media where Instagram, everything I'm buying at the moment, whether it's the dustbin I bought yesterday for home or this jacket I bought off somebody, none of these people have shops. They send it to my house, I try it on, I like it, I send it back. They're making great money, they don't need the space. And so pace yourselves. Don't fall into this trap that you're gonna have to have this big fancy stuff. The clients that really believe in you are not interested in space, in the space in the place that you're occupying. Just remind yourself that work nowadays is a space and not a place. And I think for me that was one of the biggest things. And I'll grow into it. I'm not saying I do want the office. I do want to one day grow into a capacity where I can say that we have an office space, and from the human side of the business have the staff members that will eventually grow into to come into every morning and have that bond and work. But for right now, that's not our formula and it's working.
Interestingly, I got into business differently. So I ended up being supporting my family as a breadwinner. So I'd say I got into business not because I wanted to, but because I had to. It was, and a lot of women get into business, the mamambogas, most SMEs, you're seeing women managing. Why? Because they have to survive. And I remember one of the biggest challenges I faced was raising capital. And we're going to talk about the idea, right? How you decide what kind of business you want to do. Because when you're in survival mode, guys, let me tell you, it's not for thinking at, my passion has always been. I'm just saying, what can I do? Oh, if this is the thing I'm doing it, right? And the worst part about doing business in survival, looking back, because I set up a company in 2013, and before that, I had tried all other sorts of businesses. So like, as soon as I stepped out of high school, I was like, you're looking at the situation in the house, you're just like, listen, I'm going to Kikomba. I don't know where it is, but I'm going to figure out how to get clothes. And then slowly realizing that there's people who need scat suits and whatnot, the money multiplying into something else, and then you decide, all right, I'm going to do this. And do I care for clothes? No, right? At that point, was I a fashionista? No, I wasn't. I see you in the house, but for me, none of that, right? The worst part about it is I felt isolated, right? 99% of the time, I'd be doing business. I didn't know what I was doing. I never had the confidence, right? So what I'd do, there's a phrase I'd learned in, I think, primary school, which had worked for me so far in high school and in campus, which was fake it till you make it, right? Fake it till you make it. So
we're all doing that still.
You need to.
And at that point, even so, like I tell you, some of the spaces that I entered to go and pitch, right? I know in your mind you're thinking, Combox, like you can enter anywhere. No, it was not Combox at that point. It was Sheila, right? So anywhere the space you'd enter, you'd be like, I got this great idea. Luckily, I was given a gift of gab, so I know how to present myself. 99% of the time, I'd get a no, right? So no capital, no deal, no this, no that. But the thing that would make me not stop was not the idea. Don't get me wrong, I'm not like these guys. It was the hunger, right? Which was, I needed to support myself, right? And throughout the journey, the one thing that has stood out is, while my male counterparts would seem to have capital, right? I don't know where they'd be getting the capital from. Babes, I was never in a chama. maybe because I wasn't invited. So, you know, I have to be honest. Yeah, my mom was in a chama, so I saw what the chamas did for her. When she was having, you know, she couldn't be able to pay her school fees and whatnot. You'd see the chama pulling up, right? She needs to buy something, the chama will pull up. But for me, at that point, you see, you're looking around and you're not seeing any women counterparts, right? I didn't have babes who are also in business. So men have like sort of, like we'd be hanging out with them. We'd be talking about anything, right? But not business. And then when they're by themselves, they'd be like, you guys are deal, you guys are deal. You see them doing business together, right? So in the process, it taught me to be resilient, to, you know, the no's really helped. They helped me know that, look, you keep saying no, eventually, you know, you're gonna say yes. And I remember by the time I was getting my first deal, I was about to turn back and say maybe business is not for me, maybe marriage, right? Yes, I'm being honest with you. I'm glad I didn't go that direction. But yeah, so business, what I was trying to say is business for survival compared to business for idea, solution making, right? So we know a lot of women doing amazing things, right? Running engineering companies, law firms, yada, yada, yada. But majority of the SMEs are still, you know, day-to-day things, lifestyle things, you know, things I've seen nannies doing, so that's what exactly I'm going to do. But how do you break from that cycle to get into that, you know, I can set up a science lab. I can set up when you were in Narok, did you know you were going to be setting up an events company?
No, and that's not even what I studied in school. And my poor father and mother who paid for 5 years degree in the US. So ever since I was a little girl, I wanted to be in sports. And my thing was I was going to be a PE teacher. Because when I was growing up, I had a PE teacher that I absolutely loved. This woman that she used with this far deal, a pink one. I still remember it. It's no longer being made, but she just smelled really good. And in her, I saw my future self, so I knew I was going to be a PE teacher. So I finished high school, I went to the US, I did my degree in kinesiology, came back thinking I was going to do all these wonderful things using sports medicine, and then I burnt out. I burnt out after 5 months because I went and I worked in a gym that literally burnt me out because I had an employer who just wasn't a nice guy. And so after 6 months, I came home and I told my dad, I'm going to collapse. And he was like, okay, you need to take a step back. So I started looking for other work, and then I got into the events world. By mistake, I was on leave from another sales job. So I changed jobs 5 times. I went from being a gym manager to selling courier services in the industrial area, to running a computer shop in Epic Center. I can't remember what else I did, but eventually I was on leave for a month, and I said to a friend of mine, I'm on leave, I was only 25, 26 years old, I can't sit at home for a month, I don't even have money to sit at home. So he's like, okay, let me introduce you to my aunt. Then I walk into this room and he introduces me to Gina Den, and I'm like, holy cow, you didn't tell me who I'm being introduced to. And she said, look, we're launching this company, we're going to relaunch Safaricom. And in my head I'm thinking, that little department in Telcom, okay, I mean, it's a month's stint, are you guys going to pay me? They're like, yeah, you'll get a small stipend as an intern. And after a month, I completely loved it. I went back into Gina Den's office and I said, see, you get me a job at SAF. You know, it's Kujuana. I was like, please, you get me a job at SAF. And she said, no, why don't you stay here? You seem to have it in you. Did that for 3 years, and then Safaricom approached me and said, why don't you join us? And that's how I went into the events world. So no, never, not as a growing up girl, never, like I didn't think. I remember coming home and telling my dad and my mom, I'm going to do events. They were like, what is that? What is events? 22 years ago, in the year 2000, the industry wasn't big. Events was not, we were not earning a living from events in those years. Few people were in this country. So I was met by, how would someone, never.
When I look at the world right now is evolving, and women are getting, I I don't want to say smarter, but we are getting smarter, right? Smarter, but community, society, values, and systems are still holding strong, right? So that balance, like for example, one of the biggest ones that we get is, you know, are you a babe who goes home and cooks? I'm like, I'm running a business. Why can't we talk about that? And you find that a lot of women would say that that balance between family and business sometimes becomes a deterrent from doing business altogether, right? If I could get someone who will support me, right, then there's no need to get into business. Worse still, there are women who are even told that they cannot be able to do business. I've seen someone who listens to my show, and you've heard some of the conversations on the radio in 2024, right? In this city of Nairobi, women who one day, you know, like when you're doing that business, I think we all are thinking about financial freedom and financial independence and just all sorts of independence. But it's not the same for everyone. So, Nana, what has been your experience? I mean, you're at the top of your game, being a CEO, running teams. Relationship-wise? Are you running teams there? Are you the CEO?
No, I mean it's not. And that's, I think it's to be very transparent, right? And as you're saying, you know, social media can paint a very, very different picture. And it's to be very honest, and I'll just be extremely honest. It can be very lonely, right? I'll speak for myself. And in terms of relationship, I'm a single mother. I've got 3 amazing boys. You know, they're my life. But again, sacrifices. So in that space as a mother, I've chosen that, right? I think it's also just in my character. I can't, you know, when I have friends who are like, let's go have lunch, I can't. I just don't like that, right? I also hate to shop. Funnily enough, I mean, I'm talking to women here, and it's not like it's you know, these stereotypes that are put on us, right? But family-wise, I watched all of my 3 kids walk through WhatsApp, a group, you know, and through my nannies messaging me and telling me this and that. But again, do I regret it? No, I don't, because it's a choice that I personally made for that there. But you know, in terms of relationship, it's been hell. That's what I can tell you. It's been, you know, people, for myself, I've had relationships where at the beginning they're really enjoying it, and you know, they're like, yeah, you know, whoa, you know, everyone's giving them compliments, like, my God, you know, your girlfriend's so smart, she's bright, and da-da. Then, you know, too much of bigging up your partner or anything like that, then you see their faces change each time. You know, the conversations at home start being like, ning, 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 and ning, ning, ning. This is them now, you know, you know where it's going, right? To the point where it turned into resentment, you know? And one thing I have to just make it very clear, I've had to let go of people, cut them loose in order to not sync with them, right? I may have loved them dearly, I may have done, but mentally they were no good for me. You know, those mental jabs, those mental attacks of, you know, to the point where you just kind of even, and I get it, it's never that I would never not have time for them, I would always have time for them. And actually what would happen is that I started dummying myself, right? And I then started getting resentment because, you know, you're then changing. So you could be out in a social setting and someone would ask you a question, and on purpose, I would answer it wrong, right? Just to make that other person feel better, because I would then know what would be coming at home, right? And they've gotten physical, right? So again, by the time things start getting physical, get out, right? Really, really get out. If you don't have a supportive partner, and that's somebody who is actually your, you know, you are their biggest fan and they are yours, you know, the enemy of why your company has not gotten anywhere or why you've not gone off is not even outside. It's next to you, right? So it is what it is with that. But yes, in a nutshell, and to be very, have both of your eyes open. Yeah, if somebody's there at the beginning, that's great. But as it keeps on going, listen to those comments, and don't think it's because they were drunk or they were under the influence or they were having a bad day. Yeah, you'll be able to know that gut, that women intuition is key. Follow it, listen to it, because that's what then can really happen, right? And for me personally, that's it. I had to. I'm still searching. Definitely, you either the hope of finding, that right person, but I've had to make many sacrifices in that department. It's that visual picture. You're going down and you're going down together, and you're leaving your children up there. It's as you say, the oxygen mask, it can't work.
Do you know, thank you so much, by the way, for sharing that and really getting raw with us. I was recently watching a session of CEOs, top companies in the world, and this one lady was saying how, the balance of work, being at the top of her game, and family, let no one cheat you, there's no balance, something struggles, right? And for her, as much as this woman has conquered, right? Like in terms of business, she's conquered, right? But what she struggles with is the fact that her husband, he had to almost morph to support her, right? Now, how many women experience that? Most of the times, it's either what Nana is experiencing. But Zahida, you have a different experience. You're married, right? You've been at the top of your game as a boss. How do you keep that work-life balance?
So for me, I stopped looking for what I call work-life balance because it doesn't exist. My story is pretty simple. Something struggles. And most of the time, if I'm really honest, it was my home life. Because I was so focused on work, and that's how I'm built, that work was never going to be compromised. Doesn't mean that, my 4 children are going to school looking shabby or anything like that. No, what I did is I built an ecosystem that allowed me to thrive. And that was really important. And I remember when I first met my husband, I said to him, I come from a family of very strong women where we don't apologize. We're not allowed to apologize for who we are. We do it inside, yes, a million times, by the way. Don't let anyone cheat you that we sit up here and we're these strong women. My God, I've cried a million times. So I said to him that I wasn't going to give up who I was. I love being on the road. I love traveling for work. Like staying at home was not me. And he understood that from the word go. And I told him, and he knew what he was getting to. And I said the day that he felt that he needed to clip my wings was the day I would walk out of that marriage. And I think that for me was a very important thing to say. And it sounds really easy. It's not been easy. I mean, I thank God I have a husband who believes in equal rights. He actually was like, please, boy, if you're leaving Safaricom, don't sit at home because you drive me nuts. Go do something. I don't know what that looks like, but go do something because you'll drive me nuts if you stay at home. So for me, it's having built an ecosystem. And that ecosystem, so many of us think is our family. Like you go to your mom and your sister and your brother and your aunts and uncles. Actually, no. For me, it's my Wajira and my Kalunde who've been with me for years. I have built an ecosystem of these 2 women who, they live in the compound with their kids, and we've just built a family setting that works for them, works for us. And so if I want to get up, and my husband also travels a lot for work, if he's away and I'm away, I know I've left my kids with human beings that love my kids as much as I do. Mm-hmm. And so for me, that was a very important thing to put together. So the first thing was being very clear with my husband who he was marrying, because I wasn't going to change for him. And I know it sounds easy, but pick wisely, guys, because like if I had married the man I was with before my husband, I don't think I'd be sitting here. Rosafi, I think I would have been a battered human being who just, and at the time when I left him, we broke up because he loved everything that moved. Like, if I had stayed with him, I think I'd have been a mess. And so at the point where we broke up, I thought the world was ending. I didn't eat for like a year. I was miserable. I thought I was going to die, like the world was going to end. And then I met my husband, who we met on a blind date, by the way. But it was the best decision I made for myself. As a woman who was looking for somebody who understood who I was. And it sounds really nice, but guys, if you put my husband up here, he'll tell you I'm crazy, I'm always on the road, I do what I want, I leave him with the kids, but it works. We have a marriage that works. And he's not trying to dim my lights, I'm not trying to dim his lights. We've made a commitment to each other that when I need to lower the volume, I will, and when he needs to, he will. And it's not everybody's story. I completely understand. I'm super blessed to have ended up with a man like that, but for us what worked was that we were honest from each other from the word go. And we've always said that the day it doesn't work, we won't suffer each other and we won't make our kids suffer us. And I think that's really important, where you'd rather be without somebody, like she said, who's going to punish you for being you. You'd rather be alone. And I think choose that journey that works for you, because the partner you choose for yourself in life will either help you escalate or will help you crash. Just be careful of which is you're choosing.
Yeah. And especially the support that you've spoken about. As women, I mean, again, I'm going back to physiologically, we're not as like men, right? Recently, the FA, that's Football Association, I'm talking about sports because I love sports, and women's sports especially is taking over the world. It is. You need to see what's happening. And apparently it used to be really hot. We used to have the best numbers, and then they just stopped having women in stadiums. Now we're back. But why I'm telling you about this is they've considered things like periods, they've considered things like PMS, right, when it comes to training for women, right? We are in a continent that's fast evolving, right? The whole world is looking towards Africa, right? But when we talk about leadership, we're not yet there. So decisions being made, and you can speak, both of you can speak on this, decisions that are being made on a government level, are they trickling down to the issues that women are, facing? For example, we're still arguing about, sanitary towels, right? Which, do we all agree should be just free?
Yeah, they should.
Yeah, they should be free, right? But having, women at the table or in those spaces is still limited. So when we're talking about, a world, a continent that's being shaped right now, we're talking about architecture, we're talking about, communications, where we're at, are we making laws also thinking about women?
I think, like you're saying, in regards to just little things, like saying should sanitary pads be free? I mean, definitely they are, In government, we had this thing where, it wasn't, so please, I really hope you're not going to think we had a thing where sanitary pads were free, it's not. But in every workplace, in the bathrooms, contraceptive is, condoms are free, are there. So how, and I would always be like, why is that okay, but then a woman has to struggle, or even just take it a lesser down in schools, just start there, One thing that really just pisses me off is like we have to wait for Women's Day to make big announcements on this gender rule. I'm like, why are we waiting for Women's Day to acknowledge women and to big up women? And it's like you're almost scouring around, and it's like we don't have enough women in these government positions, or just in any positions where it should be on your merit. Why are we waiting for specific people for things? On Women's Day, ambassadors are being announced, or all of that. I mean, that really pisses me off, because I'm just kind of like, it actually makes it worse, because it's kind of like are you trying to say that they didn't really deserve those positions?
Just tick the box.
Yeah, you know,
It is,
exactly, yeah.
yeah.
You know, so those kind of things. So are we, as you answer the question, you know, you're asking us a question, are we ready as a continent? Some countries, yes. I mean, some countries are really, you know, I mean, I can't wait for us to have a female president. You know, that's what I'm waiting for, you know. But other countries already have gotten there. But again, it's mindset, right? You know, and that's why even America is not yet even is there yet. You know, because I think it's that mindset. And for me, I honestly believe, you know, whoever you want to be in life, it's a 10-year journey. Yeah? And when you're starting your business, you've got to think like that as well. So if you want to be, when I'll speak for myself, the goals that I set for myself are 10-year goals, right? If I want to be a CS, or if I want to be a business person, if I want to be whatever, I have to, as you're saying, that fake it till you make it. You're starting now for that 10-year journey. You got to get up early because why? I've got to get up early because my day is going to be so busy meeting different people. I've got to be able to plan my day, right? By 9 o'clock, you're on your third meeting, or whatever it is, that type of thing. So it's a decade, and so it's a mindset. You've really got to play that part until you are in that role. So, in terms of women, we're not being shown. I don't want to say empower, because it's not about empowering, right? And I don't want to say we're given we're not given the opportunity. I think that's the safest sentence to use, without being that it's that ticking of the box. But I think no, we're not. We're not even anywhere near yet. You know, we're 0.001%, and ironically, more women had bigger roles in Kenya a lot longer, and I'm only speaking like with government, really, yeah. And even with business, because we've all been matriarchs, we've all had women in our family who have been the head of the family. So ideally, women have been bosses for a very long time, but have not been acknowledged or given fair credit or given fair due for that, is what I'm saying, yeah.
Before you add on this, when we talk about women in business, for example, even in business, there are glass ceilings, right? And so you find, if I want to be able to do this business, there are some sacrifices I'll have to make. So either when you want to start a family, right? You find, because you're running this business, and the highest the stakes for the business, the more the sacrifices you have to make. And I think it also applies to career-wise, right? And so you'll have women who are either in entrepreneurs or in corporate, right? Either don't have kids, right? And that is becoming, let's say, prevalent, for lack of a better term. And I think this also comes from not having the right kind of partner, because am I going to shinda arguing with you, or do I need to move forward, right? And so these are some of the sacrifices. And in a larger perspective, when we're talking about a country, there are things that suffer, right? You either have to choose to go for the business, for the work, right? Or the family, right? And a lot of women will find themselves settling for family, right? Because it is important.
And resentment happens, huh? Mm-hmm. I'm saying also, and from there, I've also seen women who have been where I have been and had that choice to make. If they do go back for the family, they're happy. Don't get me wrong. They're not that they're not happy. But I've had many people come to me and say, you know, even friends, and they're like, you know, I actually envy you because you picked what you wanted to do. You understand? I wish, and it breaks my heart to hear my friends say, you should never have a situation, you should never want to hear your friends say, I wish I had done this differently. And they're not saying it because they don't, with their children, they're very happy and very with that. But, you know, when you can see, exactly, with that, they've had to literally give up their passion for this. But then, like I said, so resentment will come from that woman, because she's had her wings have been clipped, right? But her husband has been able to do both, to some extent. So, and again, should there be a choice? There shouldn't be a choice. And I think with all of us sitting up here, we've shown that it can work twofold. Something's going to give, but you can do both. But if you choose, and it's not having your feet on either side of the fence. If you jump into that garden and you've left that garden, you better be ready for resentment. It's human nature. You're going to, yeah.
When I was going through my journey, one of the things I mentioned is mentorship. Didn't have it, didn't know what it looked like. I wish I had other women who would have held my hand. But you'd find, I know now looking back, you don't walk to a mentor. How many have mentors here in your business journey? Lucky guys, right? Because you don't approach a mentor, and some of them probably don't even want to mentor you, and so you end up just, guessing until finally something works out. How important are mentors? How do you identify someone who should be a mentor? And especially in the entrepreneurship journey, there are so many things that it can save you from.
So I was very lucky that I walked out and found somebody who had been on the same journey as I had. So when I was looking to leave, and actually, I remember there was a day I was with her in one of the offices. We were planning a wedding together, and I think I gave shout out to Kafu, that was my business partner. But I said to her, I want to leave. What's the life? And she said, there's good days, there's bad days. You cry, you laugh. And so we started talking about what it was for like her. And I was taken by that because she was honest about it. She told me what it was going to be like. She really helped me through that. But I remember there was a time about something in a way I don't think I would have loved it. Mentorship, we don't look at each other as mentors. We look at each other as partners that are on this journey together. And when days are really bad, we bounce off each other. When days are really good, we're celebrating together. So I currently don't have a mentor. I don't know that, if I'm really honest, that I'm in that space of, have I found somebody else that's gonna help me? I'm kind of navigating the space for myself at the moment. There's a lot of things I needed to resolve for myself, this journey. And I had said to myself, I know for you it was a 10-year plan. Upon leaving Safaricom, I gave myself 3 years. And I labeled every year accordingly. So last year I labeled my year as chance, that I was going to give 2023 a chance. Because I had no idea what I was walking into, and I needed to be completely open. And it was a term, like honestly, I felt like a steel wire sometimes because I was just so scrambled, but I said, let me give it a chance, and if it doesn't work out, I'm still marketable. I can still go back into employment. So I spent the first year exploring who I am, speaking to people in those similar journeys, because a lot of my mentors from corporate are exactly that. They see the world from a corporate eye. They're not entrepreneurs, so knocking on that door, I don't think will work for me at the moment. This is the year where I'm saying I need to pivot, which is how am I growing my business. It was nice that last year I had that comfort of I can still walk away, give the year a chance. This year I've labeled it as the pivot year. I need to make sure that I can scale up to a place where I'm stable and that the ecosystem around it, whether it's my family or the people I work with, the people who depend on the work that I bring in or the business that we bring in, we are able to put it into a sustainable framework that we know that we're now making ends meet in a way that is not survival. I'm not looking to survive this year, I'm looking to grow. I haven't labeled next year yet. Look for me 2024, I'm not there yet. I'm still on this look for me next year. I'm in this journey at the moment. So I don't currently have a mentor, no. I have people, like-minded people, and whether it's through clients, like I've had clients that are also on the same journey. Yeah. For example, when we did Soulfest, I learned a lot from Moriasi, who's just an amazing human, and so the 6-7 months I spent doing that, I learned more lessons sitting next to this human every day and picking up on what is it as these guys were trying to put together this festival, and we're a contributor to that. So
Don't have a mentor.
Have you ever thought about mentoring? Are you mentoring people?
Well, I mean, I think I'm in that same kind of thing. I just don't. Okay, mentor, yes, but as a different hat. So in recovery, I'm a recovering alcoholic, so for a couple of decades now, I do mentor in that space. But I can't say that I have a mentor. It's that kind of thing. I don't know. It's weird. It's I don't know how to really put it. I don't have all the answers, so I don't know what's stopping me from going in and looking at or asking for that. But I think it's also just asking for help as and when I need it. Yeah, I mean, that's a key thing you've just got to remember. Don't be ashamed to ask for help. Don't be ashamed to ask, how did you do this? Don't be ashamed to ask, I need help in this thing, I'm struggling here. And I think if you have that ease of not being afraid to ask, then I don't want to say you don't need a mentorship or that's why maybe I'm not looking for it, but I don't know what anybody thinks sitting here. I don't know what you think of the three of us sitting up here, and I'll speak for myself. There are days when I don't even know what the hell I'm going to do, right? So please don't think I've got my act together in all of that. I don't, yeah? The days when I'm just like, oh my gosh, And as you're saying, I think it's also very key. We've asked these questions of why are you wanting to have a company or business just to make money, to have money, or are you wanting to, what legacy do you want to leave, what do you want to put in? One thing that's and I want to make it very clear, you may be in a business and there's a difference between liquid cash and assets, right? And as you were mentioning as well, we've all been in that situation. You may have assets of however much amount of money, but the cash liquid, it's very few. So like, again, we've all been in that situation. I can even relate to that. You're like, gosh, I've got a deadline I need to make. So let me ask, you have your core team of, your advisory board, I call them, your board of directors, which is your friends. And you should be sitting on theirs as well, where you're, okay, I need this money, I've got to go and do something, and they just understand. It was like, you're broke, you don't have any money, what are you talking about? Da, 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 da. It's like, no, it's not that at all. And I think we need to really understand that when you've got, a lot of people throwing money on Instagram or on social media saying all of this stuff, I want to break it to you. If somebody comes to you and says that they have got millions of money in the bank, right? Run from that person. Reason being, I would run from that person. Number one, I'm like, you have all of that money, why have you not invested it? Point number one. Point number two, it's a bit suspect on how you've gotten that money, I would just say. And I'm being very honest, because it's, again, that value of money, that actual, nobody, when you hear the Rockefellers, when you hear, I don't know, Kenyattas, the Dingers, when you hear the Joneses, when you hear the Smiths, whatever it is, whoever it is, the Shahs, whatever it is, any type of thing, nobody has a lot of money just sitting in the bank. It's either been invested, so you can invest it in your company. That's how you become on the stock exchange. That's if you're going to go public, right? But again, as you were saying, right? Don't think that, oh my gosh, I've got to have this big office, I've got to do all of this stuff. We're in a day and age now where I would say invest in a phone, make sure you get bundles, don't even get bundles, get a plan for the month, unlimited Wi-Fi. Spend it on that. Don't spend it on an office where it's an overhead, as we call it, right? And again, have something that's going to work for you. Be realistic with your targets, your revenue targets. And even just, it's only recently now, and you asked the question if we have like maybe 3 or 4 jobs or whatever, right? Have 3 or 4 revenue streams, target it and say, I want each, if this is my target, if my target is to make 50,000 shillings a month, if it's to make 20,000 shillings a month, if it's to whatever, don't put it all in that one revenue stream, right? Have different avenues. It could still be that same company, that same business, that same overall theme, if it is in business or marketing, whatever you're doing, but have different revenue streams, because as you're also saying, they're not all good. It's like a relationship. We're not all going to be together at one time. Yeah? Some may take years to actually develop. Some may really be your cash cow and then all of a sudden go quiet. So in terms of that, I think really it's about just being really realistic about things, but also again, that's just what I just wanted to really just make sure as well that we are together on that.
Yeah.
But in terms of a mentorship, I kind of diverted off a bit. But in terms of a mentorship, no mentee, I do not have one. But I think it's because I'm not afraid to ask. I'm not embarrassed to ask, let's say.
Now, we're about to wrap up. If you've got any questions, this is the time, or something you want to chime in. But in the moment of isolation or doing your business, you mentioned crying, right? The other day I posted on my socials that I cry regularly. I think I cry at least once a day. Yeah. True story. Yeah, but hear me out. I love cat videos. So, I love animals. So anytime I see a video, like I use that opportunity to get the tears out, right? Because days are hard. But then talking about, we're in a world right now that's so difficult mentally, right? Maybe overstimulation, maybe competition, maybe feeling like you're, not moving fast enough. Maybe the business is not going fast enough. Sometimes maybe you're faking it until now. Even you're lost and faking. Now you're just like, what was I doing again, right? And you're spiraling, right? How do you take care of yourself mentally, right? There's a lot of people claim therapy, and then I recently found out a lot of people are actually not going to therapy. They're just mentioning therapy, right? And then recently I found out that a lot of therapists actually don't know what they're doing. So it's like you're just talking to someone. No, for real. I went to a therapist, I left there, therapized myself. Right? But then I met a good therapist and I was like, oh my God, I've actually been paying someone to be my friend, right? But mental health really and truly is something that is so important, right? And you're seeing either a business will stop, because you know that the first year of starting a business could be so mentally taxing that it could be the make or break of the individual or the business, or both, right? So how do you, in your spaces, aside with Zaida, how do you manage in those moments when you're crying, right? To pick yourself up and say, okay, you know what, I'm going to keep moving.
So first I allow myself to cry, and it's really important. I mean, the first year after leaving Safaricom, I'll be really honest, it was difficult because I had left 22 years of my life behind. Right? It's my adult life. I had my 4 children there. It's every day I woke up and I went and I had a purpose, and I walked into this office space and I was doing amazing things, and so forth. I had purpose. I left on March 31st last year. So what had happened is I left in 2022, but then they kept me on a contract basis. I said I didn't want to stay as an employee, I'll do contractual work. So realistically, I left last year in March. And I remember going to my office is at home. I converted one of the rooms. My poor children, one day they didn't have a room, it's now the office. And I sat at the desk and my phone wasn't ringing. There was no email. And remember, I've come from 22 years of being so busy that sometimes I even forgot what my house looked like. That's how busy I was. So now I'm at this desk with a laptop, with I'm ready for the world. And my phone's not ringing, there's no email, nobody's looking for me. So I'm sitting there from 8:30. I told myself I showered and put on my work clothes and I went to my desk at 8:30. Then I thought, this email is not working. If I send myself a text message, that thing came in within 30 seconds. Not even 32 seconds. I was like, okay, so email's working. So I called my husband who also works from home. He's like, what do you want? You're in the house. I was like, Abu, call me. I see if my phone's working. He calls me. By 11 o'clock, I was an emotional mess because I had nowhere to go. And I remember crying and thinking, have I made a mistake? And that feeling didn't leave for a while. Probably the 3rd week in, still no work. We had 1 gig, so I went in to help my partner with an event she had won. And the way our partnership works is we both have our own companies. If I win, we go in as me. If she wins, we go in as her. And you take the lead. If it's yours, she takes. So it works really well. And I remember doing this 4-day conference. I'm thinking, 4-day conference, the tunes must be good. Then I got paid. I was like, hiya. I got in my car and I was like, should I ask if this is a deposit? When am I getting my car? It's like, guys, let me tell you, the drive from Westlands, I live in Langata, the drive from Westlands to Langata, I cried. I prayed, I cried, I came home. I think my husband thought something had happened at an event and I was like, I'm fine, I'm okay. There were a lot of reality checks along the way, but what I did do for myself is allowed myself to go through that process. I didn't shut it down. I cried when I needed to cry. I cried in front of people, I cried behind the scenes, but I spent the first year allowing myself to go through that process. I didn't apologize for it. It's still that, I mean, if I'm really honest, I'm in a much better place now because the business has taken off well. I find that I'm happy with my decision. I was never not happy with the decision. At every stage of the months that have since left, I've encountered different emotions, but what I've not done is suppressed how I feel. I didn't go to a therapist. I went to one once in my life and she spoke more about herself and I was like, guy, who's the therapist here? So it didn't work for me. But I found people who are on that journey. I found people who are not judging me for who I am. My best friend, Sanda, keeps me in check. I'm not allowed to do nonsense. Sanda is really good. Like, I'll pick the phone and then I'll say that some rubbish I want to do or how I'm feeling. And she's like, can you get back on that train track? Because fine, go cry, go drink, do whatever you need to do, but get back on that track. So, biggest lesson is don't be afraid to go through the emotion because it passes. It's a season. It'll go away. You'll learn how to deal with it. Now it's clients who are making me cry. I'm so PST'd at the moment from one particular client. You'll go through different things, but allow yourself to feel those emotions. Allow yourself to cry. Allow yourself to laugh. Find people who are in a similar journey. It might be mentors, it might be coaches, it might be people that you never thought. I mean, when I left Safaricom, and this is one of the other things that was really difficult to come to terms with. I had been told about it, but when you experience it, it's like a real slap in the face. But I was told that there will be people in your life that are with you because you're in Safaricom, because of the position you are in. And I knew that. You know it. But when you experience it, I can tell you, it's not nice. So the day after I left, I needed to plan something. And I called my usual suppliers and I said, I want this. And straight away, I knew who's with me and who's not with me. And at that moment, I remember going to my garden and crying and getting out of my system because these are people that I had worked with for 20 years who are now saying, actually, we don't need you anymore. But then the 2 or 3 that stayed were like, Zah, you know what? Whatever you need, just come. We'll give you terms. Just, my store is open, come when you want. And so that was a very difficult lesson to learn. But a year down the line, I'm a much better person for it. I now know who I can rely on and who I will never going to call again. And that's a journey as an entrepreneur as well that I think you can't underplay, which is there'll be people who walk the journey with you because of the belief they have in what you have to offer, and there's the people who will be with you because you are in a certain position, in a certain moment in time. They need you. And don't get me wrong, it's the same with me. And the other day I called somebody for a sponsorship I needed. And I said, oh, you picked my call, thank you so much. And he said, why wouldn't I pick your call? And I said, because I'm used to people after Safaricom not picking my calls. And he said, no. And he said, I'm going to teach you one lesson. And he said, life is made up of the transactional relationships No, he said life is made of transactions and life is made of relationships. And he said, learn this as an entrepreneur. There's going to be the transactions that you're going to have to make. Those are people you will need for that moment. They're not with you forever. They will transact with you, you will transact with them. They will use you as you will use them. And then there will be relationships. There'll be people who will stick with you no matter what. They'll give you everything they have, and you should also give them everything you have. And so I've learned how to compartmentalize even my suppliers, vendors, corporates that I'm currently working for, clients. I know there's the transactional ones, and then there's the relationship ones. And those are some of the things that are currently helping me just pivot into how I'm going to run my business.
I love that. You know, it's interesting you mentioned that. I have a friend who recently got fired, and within a span of like 2 months, after 2 months, I saw the guy and he was half his size. True story. And so I invited him for lunch and we're sitting and we're talking. And he said, you know, the thing that hurts the most is nobody calls me. Like, from the moment he was the life of the, center of the, hey, I need this, hey, I need that, right? The day he got fired, it's like everybody remained with their employer. You pick to the side, right? It's like, relationships, and you wake up and they pick your ex. They can go with the ex, right? But before I let Nana share her experience, I've had an experience which made me change how I look at mental health and how I prioritize how I feel over what I make, right? So in the process of, I started this by saying that I got into business from I needed to, and then it slowly pivoted to what I wanted to do, because now I was able to have some capital. And so if there's one thing I take very seriously is risks. Like I'm like, if I think of something, I'm in, right? So I once did that. I went in and then I lost everything. Yeah. And the craziest thing happened. Long story short, I ended up losing my business. My house was robbed and my car was stolen in the same week. Yeah. That's the day I knew who stands with you. Right? Now, not to say that I didn't already have an idea of things can happen and people are not necessarily who they say they are, right? But this particular one, as an entrepreneur, I've never felt the loneliest loneliness that you can feel, right? First, it was the loss, right? And then there's also the part where you feel like, I'm foolish for making that decision. And remember, all the decisions I made were right decisions. They were above board decisions, right? But I was working with the wrong person. And so in the process, I ended up losing a lot, right? You'll need to buy my book so that you understand the details. I know you're conjuring your face there, right? But in that process, I want to talk about the mental health aspect. I had family, right? When she said network is not family only, right? There's only so much. Like, when you're talking to someone and they tell you, no, it's going to be okay. Well, how do you know? You've never experienced this, right? And so that element of, being down there, and yesterday I was talking to someone who was saying that they don't invest in people who have never failed. Right? And as an entrepreneur, I think you can appreciate why failure is good, right? That failure was so good for me. Believe me, like that week was the best week of my life. Because it made me realize that whether I'm up or down, I'm not building the business, I'm building myself, right? And so as an entrepreneur, there will be moments where everything is going okay, and there will be moments where things are not going okay, nobody's listening to you, you feel like you're lost, right? But the most important thing is waking up, checking how you're feeling, and moving forward. And for me, that has worked. So the clearer my mind is, the more I'm able to do. Nana, running at the top of your game, right? I'm sure there are challenges. How do you take care of yourself?
I think Thank you for that, but I hope I'm not at the top yet. I hope there's still a bit more to come. But I know what you mean by that is, I think what I've done is, I don't know if you know the story. It's a child's story. Maybe it can be translated in many different things, but the emperor's new clothes, right? Just a quick thing about that is an emperor or somebody, it's this main character keeps being told what wonderful clothes he's wearing. Everyone's like, you look fantastic. He's like, somebody then comes and is like, I've gotten this gold thread, it's so fine, it's gonna look great. And he puts it on and he now goes out onto the street and everyone's cheering, but then there's a little child who's laughing and pointing. So he stops and he's like, what's so funny? He's like, you're naked, you're naked. And he's like, no, I'm not, look at my beautiful clothes. And everyone's like, yes, look how grand they are, look how great they are. And the child is like, no, you're naked. You've got nothing on, right? And then of course it's at that point in time when he has his aha moment and he's like, my goodness, I've surrounded myself with yes, men and women. So for me personally, at a very tipping point, I have to probably say it was when I chosen at 1999, this is a very long time ago, is when I stopped drinking, right? And I had to make it. And you have to keep challenging yourself. There's different points I can think of. So when I stopped drinking, I remember coming back to Kenya after rehab and everything, and there was a group of people, and they were exchanging money and all of that kind of stuff. And this is in the bar, and JK's, if anybody ever remembers that place. Yeah, this is a long time ago. Yeah, and I was like, what are you guys doing? And straight up looking at me, they were like, we're betting. I said, what are you betting on? When you're going to go back and drink? Yeah, that was my first moment of what the F, right? And it was just kind of like, these are the people who you really thought were your friends, who you thought, and it's also humbling. I just moved across, my best friend Mary, she's, been with me since day dot, and I remember just sitting there and she was like, it's okay, you have us, and it's realizing that. And there's been different times in my life when that's happened, and how do I manage that? Well, of course you go through the emotions as rage. Yeah, how dare this, how, that. Then comes the I think it's a humanizing part, which is the tears, right? And you're ball on the floor and you're total mess, and then it's which I think is the most, as important as the other side of the crying, is that inner strength that's telling you, get up, fight again, right? You can do this. And it's that voice in my head after I'm crying, and what makes me stop is that this voice comes to me and says, are you alive? Yes. Are you hurt in any way? Not physically, physically, are you challenged in any way? No, right? Are you ready to put that to the side and do it again? Yes. So it's 2 no's and a yes. If I always answer 2 no's and a yes, I'm ready to get back into that ring again, and again, probably the most, I put a lot into KICC, and I get really emotional. I mean, it was my 4th baby, and it was literally, and it was by my choice, right? And 7 years is a long time. It's as I said, it's like as old as my second born. And when I realized leaving KICC, and again it was in 2023, I think that was probably our most pivotal, was sitting up here, 2023 is real. I never knew what character development was. You see about it, people are talking about it in social media, it's kind of like, funny, you don't, until it happens to you. I thought KOT, when I came into KICC, that was a character building, right? Just because of me facing KOT. It's not even that, I appreciate that. But when I was leaving KICC, is when I actually realized people don't give a damn. The staff that I had nurtured, I have taken and taught and shown we're actually you have a say, you're actually gonna be able to do something, you actually can stand up for yourself as members of staff. You don't have to always be crooked, or you don't have to be always, trying to steal from the organization or anything. You've actually been like, my God, I feel so proud of everybody here, And my last 2 months at KSC were probably my hardest, only because of that change. They know you're going, and it was quite possibly the most rudest of, I don't need you anymore. Like, F off, we're done. People's true colors come out. I've been sitting smiling there with you. I've been, yes, CEO, yes, this, whatever, but now it's kind of like, piss off, somebody else is coming. Let me see what I can, leeches is the word, yeah? And it's fine, because again, you have to go through that to get to that, and it's twofold. It is from the people in the organization who you have, honestly, there was one person who, health insurance, when I came to KICC, we were not even paying health insurance. We hadn't even been paying our premiums. A member of staff, his wife was going through chemo. He came to me in my first month, crying and all that. She was like, what's the problem, what's going on? Yeah? I remember actually allocating a holiday for me and my kids, because we were going to go somewhere just to celebrate that I had now come into this job and this was something different. Yeah? I sat down, and at that point in time, Udi was like 4, he was not understanding much. I just was like, look, we're not going to go to Euro Disney now because Mama's got to do something else here. That person never knew I gave up my holiday fund to make sure his wife was that. But I chose that. You know what I'm saying? And that's why character is everything. Your character is everything. And if you don't have a good character, it can really finish you, or you can finish somebody. So I don't have to get into many stories, but that's my exit at KICC was probably my biggest life lesson. And that's why I have no qualms in even looking back. Everyone's like, you don't want to go for another position, you don't. I said, I'm mentally tired, I'm done. Yeah? That's when I just found myself the first time saying, did I make the wrong decision? Did I pick my work before my kids? And that's when I said, never again. That's when I said, I'm gonna have to, before my kids get older and leave. I've always been there for them, and had I really been there for them? And that's why that shift had to happen. I cried. December was a mess, right? Crying, anger, the bitter. And I remember my aunt and my cousins just telling me, Nana, you don't need to be acknowledged of what you did at KICC. You changed that place. And if people want to recognize you, or they don't want to recognize you, or if people are going to treat you like that, they're like, we're going to show up for your going away party, you hold your head up high. It was like a pep talk in my CEO office. Don't let them see you crying. Like, my CS is holding a party for me downstairs in, I even forget the name of the building, of where, not Savo, Amphitheater. And I'm having my closest friends in my office, and my aunt just telling me, you get down there and you finish up strong. It was, my kids are looking at me, and my son is like, Mom, are you crying because of you leaving KICC? Because I told him, I said, I'm crying because I'm leaving KICC. He's like, no. So Udi, my eldest, is like, I heard you say that it's because of the way these people were treating you. And I said, it doesn't matter. We're going to get out of this, and we're going to do this. So, yeah. And, leaving, and not a single scandal, not a single whatever, but mentally, it's my last to date. Right, in terms of corporate world, and it's honest, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Yeah, believe it. But every scar, every tear, every laughter, every success, every failure has gotten to me being who I am today. Yeah, and I would never change it. I would never change one day of that having to pitch, that having to really go and ask for help. You know, we were sitting here joking about, you know, I've got a home office. And everyone's like, where's your office? I'm like, I don't have an office. I don't. They're like, what? I said, no, I don't. I don't need an office to do what I need to prove myself, you know. But mentally, what do? It's about, there's also that saying, if you're going to cry over something, whatever that situation is, if it's going to take you 10 days, you cry over it. 10 minutes, cry over it. But don't you ever cry about that same situation again. Yeah? Don't ever cry about something new another time. No is also an answer, right? Back to this emperor of new clothes. Yes, 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 I can do it. How much is being taken from you? Can you actually, you know, ask yourself, do I really, I don't want to do it, I don't want to do it. No. No is also an answer, know that. And it's okay to say no. So boundaries is another thing that I've had to really learn, to be, you know, mentally. And it's okay to take a break, right? And that's, I also learned that. You know, a lot of people wondering where have I been for the last year, wherever. This is actually my first event that I've been to, Pinky's event, after leaving KICC. I burnt out, I was tired. You know, you're kind of thinking, the purpose, yeah, the phone stops ringing, you know? And it's kind of like, you get so embroiled in that position, you actually forget, and like, you know, you're sitting there, like, you're checking in, is everything okay, like, what's going on? And actually to the point of, you know, even having some people who you've actually created now actually have the balls to tell you, you know, you're not useful to me anymore. Tell you that. And it's cool. We'll meet again. I know we're going to meet again. It's okay. But it's a bitter pill. But being able to recognize it, being able to accept it, and being able to move on and being stronger, I can tell myself, actually, you know what? It's not a bad thing. It's actually the best thing that these lessons have ever been, could have been for me. So it's about boundaries, it's about taking a time out, it's about, and again, you know, you should be able to count your friends on one hand. Don't go to your other hand, don't go to your toes. Yeah, you should only be able to count your real friends, and hang out with them. If it's that one person, cool. So yeah.
I love it. I want to say thank you, ladies, for sharing your story. And you know what I'm learning? Can anybody guess how old I am? People always get it wrong. Can anybody guess? 36? 26?
21.
That's the most common answer. Yeah. 32? Thank you so much. I'll take that. This year I'm turning 39. Yeah, right? And as I'm learning more about being a woman and being in my space, right? I am appreciating being around women more. Why? Because in my isolation, right, is when I realized this thing, Zahida's gone through it, right? And when we speak, as I'm speaking to her, even as I've sat here with, the common theme is that we're not perfect. Nobody is perfect. Nobody is had got it all together, right? We might dress okay, I might put on the makeup, I might show up, I might kapow. But even in my, like, I've been on stage emceeing a concert with 20,000 people, and I'm having a panic attack on stage. And the guys are telling me, yeah, you gave us the energy. I'm like, yeah, I was falling apart, right? But having a support team, having, you know,
perspective. I don't know how old you are. I'm 48 and I'm looking at life very differently. I don't know that as a 20-year-old entrepreneurship, if I'd had the courage, the guts to stand up and start my own business. I don't know how many of us are 20 years old right now. Anybody? This is the year, guys. This is the decade where you take all the risks. Take the risks. There's something somebody taught me, which was, when you're 20, take the risks, because you have nothing to apologize for. There's nobody that is relying on you unless you have a new family, etc. But take your risks now. When in your 30s, you will discover who you are. You'll start to understand better where are you settling, what kind of business. You probably in your 20s are going to do 10,000 things before you get to 30, and then in the decade of 30, you're going to figure out what you're really good at. And 9 out of 10 times, the things that you're really good at are the things that are going to make you money, because it's not going to be a struggle. Those are the things. I mean, June, can I use you as an example, darling? June is a lawyer, but man, woman can throw down, she can sing.
Yeah.
So she's gifted. There's a thing she said she's going to go and learn, and that life was going to teach her. And that's law. And she hasn't given that up, right? Right. But then God gave her this gift. She can sing, she's an event producer, she does production. Those are the things. When did you discover that? 30?
Yeah, about 14 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the passion, they say, when I was like 5, I can't even remember when I was much younger, maybe like 8.
So in the 20s, you're going to do a million things. In 30s, you're going to figure out who you are. In 40s, you will settle on who you really are. What is that business that excites you, that brings in the money? And if you're lucky, you're going to be really happy doing it every day. When you're approaching 50, like I am, you're going to learn actually the things that you're not going to put up with, the things you're not going to allow in your space. And it comes, who's over 40? I said the things, guys, when you get to 40, you're going to be like, this crap's not for me. So just look at your entrepreneurship journey from decades as well. That's something that really helped me, even from my corporate career. What was I doing when I was 20 and 30? Between 20 and 30, I was doing foolish things. I was taking risks I wouldn't do today for whatever reason. Settled, probably less of a risk taker. 30s, I was discovering, I was landing. 40s, I was stabilizing, I was building my legacy. As I approach 50, I'm very clear on who I am, what I want to do, the things I'll put up with, the things I won't do. So even in your entrepreneurship journey, just look at it from that perspective. I don't know if it'll help you, but it definitely helped me. Whether it's corporate life transition to this, what I call a hustler life, just also look at hustle, baby. But yeah, just also give it, because it's very easy for a 48-year-old like me to sit here and say I've got it all, and oh my God, there's 20-year-olds in the room that are still not even sure what they're doing. So give yourself that time, define where you are in your life, find the right partners to do this. But that partnership is not, you're in business together, but find people who are in similar journeys. You'll learn a lot from everybody.
All right, so I want to open it up. If you've got any questions, you want to chime in, we'll start here. Oh, you'll start? Okay.
Good evening. So my question is just, I had 2 questions. One was on the coping skills, which I think you answered properly. And my other question is, I think it's more of a concern. What would be your advice or your take, or rather from your observation, since from what I've heard from you guys speaking is, I've had of a journey that is full of resilience, and it's, you've amassed a lot of discipline, and of course there's a lot of wisdom that comes with that. So what is your take, or what would be your advice for the younger women, maybe in their 20s, yeah, headed to their 30s, as they are going through the whole journey, especially right now when there's a lot of shortcuts. I'm talking about, probably, I have had, allegedly, there's a lot of sponsorship,
Sorry, we can't.
Oh, yeah.
Here, use this one.
Oh, yeah. No,
my question is, I was just raising a concern and saying that I was asking what their opinion is in terms of currently, for the 20-year-olds who are headed to their 30s and so far, in today's generation there's a lot of shortcuts, and would it be advisable for someone to have a sponsor and then probably be a sponsor in your business? And then, I don't know, because you see from what you're talking about, you have started from what we call nothing, even if not nothing, because it can be nothing, because again, 22 years, you have something, there's a basis you're starting with, even if you're somewhere green where you don't know exactly, you can't tell what 10 years look like ahead of time, but what you have is a vision that you're working on, and what you have been able to do so far from what I've heard the three of you talk about. I've heard of resilience, hard work, a lot of discipline, and there's a lot of wisdom that comes with what you have done. And of course, the value system is inculcated in there. So, what is the advice for the current younger who are coming up and who are not, will they miss out if then again they're using shortcuts?
I think the biggest piece of advice I can give is this is a marathon, it's not a sprint. And I think we need to, I read somewhere the other day that when you're an entrepreneur, you need to give time. Give time, it's time, and time pays you back. I find that if you're expecting to start a business and take off really fast, and you know those guys who say I'm an overnight success, that overnight is 10 years. They just were founded. I mean, J-Lo hustled for like 6-7 years before she moved her song, before anyone took her seriously. So to say she was an overnight success. So I think for me, just look at it that it's not a sprint. And we're in such a hurry right now. Social media is, people are posting how they're in jets, they're in Dubai in boats. That's borrowed money. Those guys are in debt. That's not the truth. That's just the life they're showing out now. But for me, it's a marathon. And I keep reminding myself to give time, and time will pay me back. And I think that's the biggest thing I can tell 20-year-olds right now. You're not going. The other day, my daughter said to me, "Mom, what should I study that's going to make me a lot of money?" I looked at her, I was like, "What?" She said, "Yeah, I just want to make money in my life." And that's what they use right now. Honestly, go on the streets and just do a vox pop and ask youth. Guys are like, we want to make money. I don't know how that money is coming. I don't know who's going to give it to me, but I need to make money. So for me, just please don't look at it as a sprint. Give it time and define what those timelines are and what those parameters are. Because very few of us are lucky to take off and take off really well. A lot of us are still figuring things out. Whether you're 20, 30, 40, 50, whether I've started my business at the age of 46, or whether it's somebody at 22, 9 out of 10 times we're going to go through the same things when it comes to time and the emotions and all the things that we have. The difference is you probably have 20 years to take all the risks. Me, I don't. Me, I'll have to retire soon.
I think I want to say something about that sponsorship aspect.
Yes.
This is what I'll say. If someone is giving you money for business, take it. Okay? But know that there's nothing for free. So in 2006, I was Miss Tourism Kenya, right? 2006. You know, values you mentioned, and I remember we were talking about how you're raised. So in modeling, it's easy to fast track everything. If you look a certain way, it's easy to fast track. There are politicians, leaders, you know, who just come and they say this one, this one, this one, this one. And the next thing you're modeling with somebody, right? You're pandering a job, guys are hitting on you. How can Miss Tourism be seated in a matatu in us? I'm just like, my mama doesn't have money, right? Mm-hmm. But the person you're modeling with and you know where she lives in Islando, she's now in an X5 in Kile, right? Mm-hmm. And that can be, and that's what I was saying, if someone is giving you the money, take it. But no, nothing is for free. Fast forward 2024, right? A lot of people took shortcuts and we're still hustling together. What happened to the X5? What happened to the house that you were giving? Oh, they were not under your name, right? Because beauty fades, right? So cash, if it is cash, I'm bringing you a bag here, well, if it's legal, right? Depending on your values. And someone wants to donate and give you seed money for your business, and there's no strings attached, take the money, right? But consequences, just know that it is a shortcut, right? And nothing is free. If you cannot be able to stand, because a lot of people will not be able to, I guess your values will not be able to allow you to look back and remember what you did in your youth, and it passes like this, right? When you do look back, will you be able to be proud of what you did? Yeah. So all I know is any sponsor who's coming to sponsor your business, girl, yo.
Can I just ask, when you say sponsor, what do you mean?
Like a sponsor.
Like, you know, sponsor means very different. Like, just define sponsorship. Are you looking at?
Yes, no, when I say sponsor, I was using it just as like the social aspect of it, the way it's sponsor an older guy who's targeted a young woman and wants to sponsor, you know, like what she's talking about. Most of them will buy you cars and put you into the leisure. And then, but then again, it's not yours, you understand? So in terms of entrepreneur, because you could be genuinely, I want to start a business, cosmetic business, let me say, for example, I want to sell shoes or whatever the case is, I don't have the capital, and he's willing to give you the capital. Yes, or sponsor you, but of course it's always men are also not very stupid. I think they are very clever in how they also pick up these women, you know. So with the sticks, for me, I think I was more concerned of the long term, because when I hear you speaking, you are not people who are using sponsorship. You understand? So the thing from where you started, you get what I mean? So I think I was, at the back of my head, what I was battling was, is it then better you work and probably have something, you understand, then begin from there? Is there more value and more satisfaction with that, and how you've done it, as opposed to being a 25-year-old, you want to start a shoe business, you have maybe just 50,000, probably what your parents have been, and yourself, and then you have this sponsor who can give you 2 million, to even have capacity to operate with 2 million, and you know the maturity to be able to handle that kind of money. And even if there is never no strings attached. So I think I'm just wondering, long term, what's the effect for 25-year-olds?
So,
and
just to build on what she has said,
Yeah.
there's a difference between an investor and a sponsor. I think so if somebody's your sponyo, then you know you're having to give something in return.
Yeah.
Then you ask yourself, how long? What are you giving up? And there's the physical, mental, ethical, moral, whatever it is. I don't know what a 25-year-old today might be offered to. You said 2 million in return for what? To be kept, to genuinely take is he just a really nice guy who really likes you? They exist. There are people. And then there's an investor who genuinely feels your business idea is great. He or she wants to help you grow your business. My piece of advice, and I did this when my husband and I first got married, we decided we were not going to do a wedding. We'd rather invest the money that we were going to use for a wedding to go and buy an apartment. And we were short about 300K. So I went to my cousin and I said, please help me, I need 300K, we've seen this apartment we really want. And he said, I'll give it to you as a gift for your wedding. Here it is, 300K. But we gave it back. We saved, and about 2.5 years later, we had the 300K, and we went back to my cousin, who has a heart of gold, was not going to come for the apartment, was not going to one day ask for my children in return, because he was just, and still is a super nice guy. But we returned the money because let no one ever hold your success and your growth to themselves. Pay back the money. Whether it's a sponsor, whether it's an investor, borrow with timelines and make sure you pay it back. That's number one. Give yourself that. Number two, sign. Get a lawyer. First of all, with your family first, get a lawyer. If you're going to do business with your family, those are the first people that you need a lawyer with. Because let me tell you, first of all, doing business with family is not easy, because you think it's cushy and it's your brother and your sister. And let them start growing their family, they're going to need that money more than you. You'll be told, oh, but you're a single woman, but you're only 25 years old. but I have a wife now, I have a kid, I need them. No, they don't. Let them, that's their journey. So please guys, sign a legal agreement even with your best friend. Sign that agreement that clearly says, what are you putting on the table, what are they putting on the table, and what does departure look like? Because at some point, I promise you, you will want to depart from that agreement. It's gonna happen. Okay, so recently this, I'm trying not to say because it was quite a public party, but these two humans got into business together and it was all cushy and really nice and really successful until one of them stole from the other one. So they made a lot of money. He or she, I can't see who, collected the money and didn't tell the other person. Now they're in this legal brawl because they didn't sign an agreement. So guys, number one, pay back. Doesn't matter. Even to your mom and dad, please pay back. Because let no one ever in 10, 20, 30 years say that they are because you are because of them. Okay, give yourself that freedom. Number two, sign that legal agreement. Those are the two big things I tell you. Sponsor, investor, whoever it is.
All right. Is there a question?
Okay, thank you, and thank you for such a great session to have. First, to comment on what she was asking on sponsors, what I can add to that is that you're allowed to make a decision, but you can never choose the consequences. So you may make a decision that looks very nice right now, but you will not be able to choose the consequences that come out of it. So whatever decision you make, be ready for the consequences, whether positive or not. To my question, I know there's a lot of hard work that will come in your success or where you are and in your journey, but you've not tackled the issue of imposter syndrome. Have you experienced it, and how did you manage to maneuver out of it? Because this is a very big issue in a lot of people, and especially women, where you feel inadequate. You feel you're not able to do it, or you're not fit for that position, or fit for that kind of a job, or for that kind of a business, or you think that, you know what, maybe he or she can do better than me. So how do you handle imposter syndrome to make sure that it's not a barrier to your success, or it's not what is holding you back to get to the level that you're supposed to get to? Thank you.
So I just want to take the other questions so that we can move a bit faster. Let's pass the boards.
Okay, I can go?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. The session was amazing. Cannot even begin to sum it up, whether it's from the crying to, the sleepless nights. Thank you so much. So my question is about pricing when you enter into entrepreneurship. How do you know how to price, whether it's your services, products, but mostly services? So I know there is maybe cost plus markup, but what other pricing strategies? And then my other question is around collection of payments, because especially for young people, you have clients and then it's 6 months, 1 year down the line, and you're still not able to collect that payment. So how do we do that? Thank you.
We'll deal with that.
Thank you so much for this session. It was amazing, and special thanks to the ladies. We are living here, feel seen and comforted that the feelings that we are having today in our journey is not, we are not alone in it, and others have gone through it. My name is Krista. I'm in the manufacturing of medical equipment sector. I'm turning 32 years old, and as you say that there is loneliness when you are going through it, I wanted to add on what they said of what kept me going, is that as in the Bible, I think there is a scripture that says, when you go through the waters, I will be with you, but when you go through the fire, I will walk with you. So it's not even going through, it's not running through it, it's not passing by, it's actually walking every second going through it, and you never know when it's going to end. I learned that fire actually burns out a lot of things that are going to hold you back in your success journey, which is ego, for example, not having a teachable spirit, a lot, anger, human resources management. There is a lot of things that come out, and the moment you come out of that fire, you come out refined. So that's first. And second, I wanted to ask. It's true that women are not seen equal to men in the business industry. How do we? I know we have to be assertive in our journey. I know we have to be assertive in our decision making. We have to be polite. We have also to keep having to have. Excuse my English, I'm francophone. So as much as we need to keep our teachable spirit open, how do we make them respect us? Because sometimes it's very tough. That's for second. As someone who is single, who is not married, I heard about what Nana said, and we tend to realize that we always have to shrink, actually, to shrink to fit in the society, to fit in the marriage.
What society expects from us.
Yes, what the society expects from us. What would you advise someone like him? Thank you so much.
Hi, thank you very much for this session. Thank you very much for touching on the issue of investors and the kind of beforehand things that you need to lay down. So, case scenario, in the event that you find an investor and they give you the opportunity to tell them what you need, and they tell me what you need for the next 6 months, yeah? So this point is when you're supposed to dream big and go all the way, yeah? So, but in this case you're struggling, you don't know how to be ambitious. You see what Combox was talking about, the drive, like you don't have the ability to think big like that or to dream big like that, yeah? I think this kind of ties to the imposter syndrome part of it, because you tend to limit yourself a lot. How do you get yourself to take advantage of this opportunity and make the most of it? Because they don't come just like that. Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Hope. Thank you for that very, very interactive session. So I have two questions. When Combox was introducing the panelists, she mentioned you two have been able to break the glass ceilings in your different industries that you've been in. I'd be keen to know what are some of the things that you had to put up with, especially in a male-dominated space where either the glass ceiling has been put by the men or the patriarchy, or sometimes you get to the top and you don't have either women supportive or a support system that you can look up to. So how do you maneuver to break the glass ceiling? The second thing that I'll be keen to know is, especially in the corporate industry, I think even generally, as a lady, sometimes there's either sexual harassment, or as you climb up the ladder, you're either presented with some options. You either do this for this, or you do this for that, or you're seeking assistance from the male counterparts, and you end up being preyed on. So it's like you've delivered yourself for the harassment. How do you maneuver that, and how do you deal with that?
So we can't take any more questions because we're kind of short on time. So I hope that these answers will be sufficient for now. But as we finish, I know the ladies are still here. If your question is so pressing, you can come and do a one-on-one session. So, all right, let's go.
Okay, so recall now. I believe you'd mentioned about the imposter syndrome. That was just out there, isn't it? We're all human, right? We're always gonna, and again, I'll speak for myself. I'm very quick to point out my flaws and my achievements, right? And I don't know if that's, I'll speak for myself. So the way I handle that is, even to this day, I still have Post-it notes, and I will write myself a message, and I'll put it on my mirror. If you don't have a mirror, put it on your door, put it somewhere. And you are your biggest cheerleader. It's great if there's somebody else apart from you, but it's that same thing of what are you doing to bring to the table before you even start asking anybody else to do something. So it's not easy. Default setting for myself is to always be like, okay, yeah, I could have done that better, or I don't think I'm, worthy of that. I don't think I'm, I should have gotten that, or somebody else shouldn't have got it, or whatever it is. It's that negative type of thing. So I do post-it notes. I also go as far as, using my alarm. You set your alarm, and when it tells you what is it, you're reminding yourself on. It's just even things like, remember to have a good day. It doesn't have to be in the morning, but just something like that, I'm an incredibly shy person, believe it or not. I don't like speaking, I don't like anything like that. So it's again, knowing yourself and what it is you feel that you may have an insecurity about. And enhancing that. It's part of your scars, right? It's part of your chemical makeup. So the minute you can start being okay with it, and it doesn't happen overnight. I'm 46 years old and I still don't, I'm still not okay with a lot of things, right? So it's every day is a learning day, is a learning process. But I have to really just say it's be your own cheerleader, until it becomes a habit, right? So it's that kind of thing, just keep on going until it becomes a habit. Whatever works for you, if it's setting notes, if it's setting reminders, if it's just looking yourself in the mirror, having a personal AGM with yourself, whatever it is, just, and it's not easy. So, like I say, I still fall into it, so you can slip back into that, and it's okay. But the minute you realize yourself slipping, find what your coping mechanisms can be, right? The other question I think I'll answer, then I'll leave it last. Oh, and also about the relationship. Yeah. So about the relationship, you asked about that, and the advice I can give you. I honestly hope you find happiness. Yeah, I hope you find happiness. I hope you find true love. We've got happiness over here. But with that, what worked or didn't work for me, and like I said, I don't want people to go away and think, oh my gosh, I feel sorry for Nana. No, don't feel sorry for me. That's a personal choice. I've just decided I'm not going to have a fourth child. Right? I'm not going to have another guy or woman or whoever next to me now telling me who's acting like a child, who I have to, you're my partner. You get it? So be able to differentiate from that. It's very important. So I've just decided, I've just said, no, I'm not going to have this relationship where you are becoming like another child to me. You're meant to be this, and this to me, not this, and this. So the only advice I can give you is know your self-worth, right? Don't put up with anybody's crap, right? You can just about put up with your own, so just don't put up with anybody else's, it's hard. And my biggest wish is, above money, above anything, I really hope you have peace of mind. You're never going to have it 100% of the time. And I really hope that you find happiness in whatever that is. Happiness to, there's also a lot of corporate women who are okay with not having that family life. And they're extremely happy. And there are women as well who are like, this is not for me, and I want to be a farmer, I want to be a fisherman, or I want to be a homemaker, or I want to be whatever. Happy, what is your happiness? Figure what that out is and do it, because my happiness is going to be very different to anybody else's in the room. It may be slightly similar, maybe the core values, but it's going to be it's unique, right? So in terms of advice, I can't give you advice on that. Only advice I can say is be true to yourself, and you won't go wrong. Yeah, that's it. I hope it's okay. I'm not going to tell you leave that guy, leave that woman. I can't. It's your own personal investment. But wake up every morning, and it's that 60-40, right? You've got to be at least 60% okay. If you're happy, that's brilliant. If you're great, that's great. But just be at peace. Yeah. The last question I think was on this side as well was about the glass ceiling, right? You're saying how do we deal with it? Was it?
Yeah. How did you get there?
How did I get there? gosh, I don't know if I'm even still there yet. You know, I'm somebody that likes to just challenge myself. So as much as it is right now, I really hope that I would be advancing more to where I am. But to get to where I am right now, I made a lot of mistakes, right? I made a lot of bad judgment calls, business, personal, and to self, right? But I also made a lot of great decisions and great choices, yeah. And I think it's from each of one of those. It's like Alice in Wonderland, if you know that story. One pill's going to do this to you, the other one's going to make you do this, and that's the kind of thing. Life is a chance, you know. And what I'm going to just end with is something that I just always, is this what I now really just say, is pieces. And I'm actually going even further with it, to doing a whole series on this with that, is in terms of a piece of a puzzle. Yeah, you've either used a puzzle piece, making a puzzle, you've either seen somebody make it, maybe you've experienced it, maybe a child of yours or a family member, but hopefully we've all experienced working on a puzzle, right? And you get the box, you put all the pieces out, you start putting it together, and guess what? The pieces run out, but your picture is not complete. Personally, that is the most annoying thing. I've spent my time, I've spent my effort, I've been really psyched up, like, oh my gosh, this picture's gonna look really good, da, da, da. And then it's just a major letdown, right? So what does that mean? That means we all hold our own piece, right? And that piece, like for instance today, I've shown up here today, and I've brought my piece and put it into this room to complete this picture that we're all seeing here, right? Tomorrow I will go somewhere else with my piece and it will fit. Your piece is always going to fit wherever you place it. But make sure you show up with your piece, because if you don't show up with your piece, the picture is going to be incomplete. And it also means that no piece is more important than anybody else. Back to this imposter syndrome. Don't make anybody feel or make you feel that you are inadequate or you are not able to be part of this picture. Because guess what? If your piece doesn't show up, that picture is incomplete. So actually you're the most important piece to complete it if you're the last one to join, right? So show up every day with your piece. It may be a beautiful picture, it may be an ugly picture, but that picture's been completed today, and it gets you to the next picture or whatever. But remember that your piece is unique to yourself, and it can open up so many opportunities, but by not showing up, it can also make you lose out on so many. Right? Thank you.
Thank you. Pricing, yeah, and collecting their monies. She's kindly in this
So pricing, especially for service, product is easy. If you're selling fridges, you can walk in and compare. And we did that. We're currently pitching for a client, so we were going, and it's very easy to do product because we're like, okay, go to the supermarkets, go to the bars, go to the places selling liquor, do a price comparison. Service is really difficult. And so at the beginning, I was underquoting because I was so scared I wouldn't get the work, so I was not quoting correctly. Now and there's a couple of pricing models. There's a price, in my industry, the events industry, what the industry is used to is you take the total sum of the invoice and you take a percentage of it. So if the invoice is 10 million and your percentage is 12%, then you get 1.2 million. That works if you've got a stable client who's not going to take that 10 million out of that cost sheet, right? So say you're doing a conference and the conference is 10 million and you're comfortable with the 1.2 million, you feel it's gonna. But what I found clients started doing was they started removing things, then you're left with 1 million, and then now I do a gig for 120K and it's a whole week. So I stopped doing a percentage model, now I do a flat fee. It's a flat fee whether the bill is 1 million or 50 million. I'm costing the time it's going to take us. And I'm not just costing the hours, I'm costing the expertise as well. You've come to us because we are doing something somebody else cannot do for you. And so I'm costing, yes, the man hours, but I'm also costing our ideas, I'm costing our creative, I'm costing the fact that you've come to a professional outfit. Now, it's also been met by my clients who, some have said you're expensive, and some have said you're worth it. And I the other day, and I actually put it up on my Instagram page, I can't remember who said it, but it said, don't compromise with the clients that say you're expensive, because they're going to leave you anyway for someone cheaper, especially when you're providing a service. We're all bargainers. By then, me today I'm looking for a fridge for my house. I deep freeze food. Me, I'm busy hustling. I'm like Carrefour. I'll go for the cheapest. But services, know your worth and cost them accordingly. Because the guys who say you're cheap, I promise you, if not this gig, the next gig they'll go for someone cheaper. The guys who believe you're worth your coin will stick around because they invest. They know you're worth the money you're asking for. And that's the biggest lesson I'm currently learning. I have clients who are paying us what we're worth, and we've actually released clients who don't believe we're worth because they're looking at the amount rather than the value they're getting. So figure out what is the value that you're bringing to the table, cost your value, because if I cost against who I consider my competitors, then I think I'll be underselling. So I think pricing model, you can go percentage-wise, and in a lot of, especially corporates, are going to ask you for percentage. If you're forced to give it a service at percentage, put in a caveat that you're minimum. So even if it's 10 million, say at minimum, no matter what the costing is going to go down to, you will not go lower than figure X. That can work. Or do a flat figure, which means you, from the very set go, you know what you're going to charge the client, and that's what your end game is.
Following up the payments.
Payments. So I live in this dream world that is telling my clients that I want 80% upfront and 20% after. And it's working for the new guys because I don't know them, they don't know me. But because my business is so cash intensive, it's working at the moment for us. I have clients who are ad hoc and are happy to pay the 80% upfront and then 20% within a stipulated amount of time. Sometimes it's 7 days, sometimes it's 14, but I don't take the risk of, because also just because I'm desperate for the work, according to them, doesn't mean I'll take whatever it is you're giving. And I understand that's a very privileged position to be in, but also look at it from the perspective of how long are you going to have to chase these guys. So my model is 80% means if you don't pay me the 20%, or if you don't pay me on time, I'm still safe. And I've gone through that with one traumatizing client who I had to chase for 3 weeks, and the guy just didn't respond. And I have suppliers and stuff. So I learned my lesson. I no longer do less than 80%. Now for the clients where I have signed contracts, I have 30 days and they know me, I know them, and I'm comfortable with the 30. But beyond 30 days, no, because our economy right now, I'm not funding your business.
You can't go into here.
I'm not here to fund your business. I'm here to provide a service that helps you look good and therefore pay me on time. So it's not easy. And I've been in corporate where I also understand, Kwanza corporates, they don't pay you on time at all. They don't pay you on time.
Neither does government.
At least you know it. To be pro-Safi in government, they tell you straight up. You'll see your money in 90 days. Either you're doing business with us or you're not. Government tells you up front. Government will tell you, actually, pesa utaona after mwaka mzima, are you ready? Then you walk into it knowing you're not going to see your money. I did a government gig and they paid me the day it finished. I was like, hiya, what is going on? And I've done a government gig, I'm still waiting to be paid. Corporate is the ones who taught me character development. Somebody tells you, we'll pay you 30 days, 45 days later, no one's answering your calls. It's a balance. If you hit that sweet spot, do a payment that makes sure that when you do charge for that service, you've protected yourself from that balance that may or may not come either at all or on time.
We're going to end it here, but I just wanted to add on the imposter syndrome. That's something I know a lot about, right? And the best thing I can tell you is everybody at some point, and I mean everybody, especially at the highest point of your things, when everybody's watching you and they're like, oh, this one must be confident, she must be, that at that time, chances are you're overthinking, right? Because most of the spaces that we get into, you've not been there before, right? But what helps you is polish your craft. Continue investing in yourself. Mentally, you cannot skip your mental health, you cannot skip your physical health, right? You cannot skip connections that you're spending time with people who are speaking low about themselves and think that you will be in that room confident. No, you can borrow confidence from other people, your network. You know, I've hung out with people who have made me see myself in a different way in a span of just hanging out with them for 4 hours, right? So those help me be more confident, so that even when I'm meeting presidents, and I have been in a room where presidents are asking me about Big Brother, shower hour. Exactly, for real, true story, right? But in that space where everybody thinks you do not deserve to be in, believe me, nothing happens by chance. You are supposed to be there. So keep reminding yourself. So one thing I do, I remember you said, was it sticky notes?
Yeah.
So I write to God. Every time I'm in the midst of the hell, right? I could be on stage, I could be on my show, sometimes I'm on air, and I'm having, because you know, your mind is an interesting place. I can be here and I can be in Australia at the same time, right? So what I try to do is be in the moment, feel the things, but when it's difficult, imagine I'm not suffering alone. I'm writing there, hi God, this one's Z. Let's try again tomorrow, and I believe it will be better, right? And most of the time when I go back to that note, I'm like, gosh, wait, that part, I was dying, right? But look at me now, right? And most of the imposter syndrome, majority of the time, nobody else can notice it's going on, right? So it's just a voice inside. You just need to calibrate that voice. Keep reminding it to speak good of yourself all the time. Never allow yourself to say anything negative about yourself, even if you can see it.
So last year, I had to pitch for a tender, a government one. I've never done a tender in my life. I opened that thing was 110 pages long. I paced up and down my garden and I was like, my corporate 22 years did not teach me this thing. I called 2 or 3 people that I know are really good at it and I was like, I'm on my way to your office. Please, you're going to help me, and when I get the deal, you'll get your 10%. If I don't, ninakuja na chakula, consider that your payment. Good people, by the way. I was so traumatized by that tender, so traumatized, but I was like, this is not me. It's not my journey. Let me find people who know what they're doing. So I went, we sat 3 days, we filled that thing out. We ended up submitting a document of 218. I think I even submitted the birth certificates for my dogs. There's nothing those people didn't ask for, things I didn't even know existed. Me, by the way, last year I didn't know ACPO existed for women. I never needed it in my life. But somebody was like, hiya, do you have this paperwork? I'm like, no, how do you get it? They're like, relax. They called a lady called Caroline. They're like, Caroline, we need ACPO today. She's like, too many 4-5. I had that thing within minutes. Don't be afraid to ask for help. That's not for you to tackle alone. Seriously, there's somebody in your ecosystem and you have to pay for it. It'll be the best investment you'll ever have to make. I've paid guys to finish tenders for me. I've paid guys to come and sit in my house 24 hours. We've drawn things, we've submitted things. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Even me, my 22 years didn't prepare me for the kind of tenders I'm having to do now. I don't have it all. I ask for help. I pay people to do it for me. But the other thing I've started doing for myself is I've started teaching myself. I'm investing in that stuff so that the next time somebody's not available or won't pick my call, I'm not relying on somebody else. So I've given myself the opportunity to ask for help, but I'm also teaching not me, I'm a master at 10 years. I can still do that thing in 1 hour. Teach yourself the things that you think you're going to need. There's something that I've always said is 10,000 hours. Your craft is the hours you're going to put in. The things you're great at and you can do when I started in corporate, I couldn't do a PowerPoint presentation. It used to traumatize me. And not just a PowerPoint presentation, but corporate requires you to do this thing called a business plan. Oh my God. I thought that was the devil disguised in a PowerPoint. I was like, who the hell invented business plans? Today, I can do that thing in 10 minutes. Because I sat and I taught myself and I was like, I'm shamelessly going to spend those 10,000 hours learning the things that I need and I don't know how to do. The things I will never ever be able to do in an amazing way. The things I can. The things I can, I continue building on. I continue investing in the things that I'm gifted, the things I've taught myself, the things that life and corporate have taught me. The things that I'm out here that I don't know, like finance. Boy, when I see an Excel sheet, I go dizzy. But I'm teaching myself finance because life has forced me how to do my books, how to do my P&L. Those things in Safaricom, I was like, those are not for me people. I'll leave that to finance. I'm teaching myself all those things. Start that now. It's never too late. Whether you're 20 or 45, write the things you're great at, write the things you have no clue. The things you're great at, spend maybe 10% of your time on those, making sure that they never slip through. That's what doctors do. They go for conferences. They go and teach themselves. Every year they go back and they say, okay, what are the new technologies? 90% of your time spend on things you have no clue how to do, but it's going to help you grow. That's how I look at it. That's how I'm dealing with it.
That's how we end it. Thank you so much for your time, and we appreciate you. Thank you to our speakers, to our panelists. I appreciate you for sharing and being very candid. And we wish you all the best on your journey. Because remember, it's not a destination, it's a journey.
And thank you.